Imagine having a closet that is neat and organized, where everything has a place and the only items you see are the items you love. Wouldn't that be amazing? Well, the first step to getting there is to declutter your wardrobe. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know, from how many items you need to have in your closet, to how to decide which ones to keep or which ones to get rid of, to dealing with changes in your body weight or different weather circumstances, to storing special occasion items, and much more. In preparation for this video, I asked you what struggles and questions you had when it comes to decluttering your closet. And I got a lot of response from you, so thank you so much. And I took the questions that were asked the most and I made sure to answer all of them today. So it's going to be a lot of information, but by the end of this video, you will know exactly what to do and how to get started. When it comes to our clothing, the 80-20 rule often applies. We wear 20% of our clothing 80% of the time. When there's too much stuff crammed inside your closet, it's difficult to see each item and to know what you really have. So we end up wearing the same things each week. It's easy to feel that we don't really have anything to wear, which makes us want to go shopping for something new. And the solution to that is not to get a bigger closet, but to have less clothing. So let's keep only the ones we truly love and wear. So let's talk first about how many clothing items we want to have. If we want to have that minimalist wardrobe, like what's the magic number? Can we have the super minimal 25 items? Or can we have 50 items and still be a minimalist? Or can we have 100 items? I personally don't feel that the number is that important. I don't really even know mine at this time, but I do understand that people want to have kind of like a general idea. So I have broken down how to decide how many items you need, and it depends on 3 factors. The first are your weather conditions, and this is really important because it makes a huge difference on how many clothing items you need. So for example, I live in the Netherlands and the seasons here are hugely different from each other. So I need everything from a really warm, heavy winter coat that can handle all kinds of wind and rain, from like light, airy summer dresses and everything in between. Whereas if you live somewhere where the weather is a lot more consistent, you can get by owning fewer clothing items. So write down for yourself which seasonal differences you experience where you live and how much time of the year that makes up. So for example, if you have really cold weather only 20% of the year, that means that about 20% of your wardrobe should be warmer clothing. If you live somewhere with huge differences in the weather conditions, but you still want to keep your items as low as possible, then think about layering. So you could wear a summer top with a cardigan in the colder months, for example. And it also helps if your clothing has some kind of color scheme. And I think a big misconception about minimalist wardrobe is that you cannot have color and everything needs to be neutral. Of course, that does make it really easy to combine things with each other, but if you really love color, then you can add as much color as you like, because color can also really match well with color. So it doesn't really matter which type of person you are when it comes to color in your wardrobe, but make sure that things are easy to match with each other if you want to keep your item number low. And the second thing to consider is your lifestyle and the different roles you have in your week. So take a moment to think about it. Can you, for example, wear the same clothes to work that you wear at home, or are they very different and do you need both? Or are you a very sporty person and therefore you need lots of active wear? Or do you like to dress up and go somewhere fancy every weekend? You need different types of clothing for different types of activities, and it is important that your wardrobe fits and reflects your lifestyle and the different roles you have. So take a piece of paper and write down your different lifestyle activities and the roles you play in your life and how much time you spend on each one, like in general, so that the things that take up the most of your time also take up the most of your wardrobe. So for example, if you find that you wear dressy shoes about 10% of the time, then you wouldn't really need 10 different pairs of dressy shoes. That wouldn't make sense. So doing this makes it really easy to spot like discrepancies in your wardrobe and the categories of items items that you own. So weather conditions, lifestyle conditions, and then the third factor is how often do you do laundry? And it's very practical, but it is important because if you do laundry like a couple times a week, you can get by with owning less clothing items than, let's say, you do it every 2-3 weeks because you don't have access to a washing machine in your home or in your building. So one is not necessarily better than the other. It has to do with your schedule. And also, do you wash something after only wearing it once, or do you wear things a couple of times before you throw it in a hamper? That really makes a huge difference. And for me, I choose to wash my clothing like not that often, and I also line dry them, which I think is the biggest reason why my clothing always lasts me such a long time. So if you find it helpful to have a magic number of clothing items to strive for, then combine these 3 factors and decide a number that makes sense to you. And you can always go lower later if you so wish. I'm really curious, how many clothing items do you think you currently own, and how many would you like to own? Please share that with me in the comments. Next is how to decide which items to keep and which items to get rid of. But first, if you are new here, my name is Vera and I make videos about minimalism, intentional living, happiness and self-care, so consider subscribing if that interests you. I post a new video here on YouTube every Saturday, and I also share a couple of extra videos a month on Patreon. So if you want more, then feel free to join our lovely Patreon community. And if you want more decluttering tips, then check out my ebook. It's called Simple Happy Zen's Ultimate Decluttering Guide. And this is a full 90-page PDF ebook where I teach you how to tackle all categories of clutter in your home. The link is in the description, as well as the link to my Patreon. When it comes to making decisions about decluttering clothing items, things can get a little tricky fast. Maybe something was just very expensive, or maybe you still think it's really pretty, but it just doesn't fit you anymore. Or maybe an item holds special memories or sentimental value, or maybe you just don't really know your personal style yet and whether the item would match that or not. So let's talk about it. So the first guideline is the more clothing items you have, the stricter you want to be. So for example, if you have 150 clothing items in total, you get to be super strict and only keep the items that you are absolutely 100% sure that you love. But when you only have, for example, 75 clothing items, you get to be a little bit more lenient and, for example, choose to only let go of the items that you are absolutely 100% sure you don't love. So first see how many clothing items you have and how strict you want to be. And the second tip here, when it comes to making decisions, and this is so important, to always take everything out. So if you are doing your whole closet at once or just doing categories at a time, which is both fine, but whatever you do, take everything out, gather it in a neutral place, and go through each items one by one, holding them in your hands. So if you're only going to do jeans, that's fine, but then take out all your jeans, gather them somewhere neutral, and go through them one by one. If you leave certain things in there because you kind of already know what you want to do with them, you will not evaluate them honestly, and you will find that you have to go back to it and go through all the items again. So really take everything out. Even if you're just going to do underwear, take out all your underwear. And if you have certain categories of items like scattered across your house, then go through your entire house, gather them all in one place so you really see how many you have. Next, let's talk about the questions that you can ask yourself when you are decluttering and when you're deciding if you want to keep something or not. I have 11 questions that I think work really well. Does it really fit? Is this really me? Is this my style? Would I buy this again today? Is it comfortable? Do I feel confident when I wear this? Is it still in good condition? How many similar items do I own? And is this actually my favorite of those items? Have I actually worn this the last year? Does it work with any other clothing items that I currently own? Do I love this? Does this item fill a need that I currently have? Sometimes we get a little stuck in our head trying to make a decision, and we factor in things that just aren't important. So for example, how much we paid for an item doesn't matter because holding on to the item is not putting any money back in our pocket, unfortunately. So these questions help us to figure out what's important when it comes to our clothing. And if you have any questions that are really helpful for you, then please share them with me and the rest of us in the comment section down below. And the next important tip for what to do when you are decluttering your closet is to use the pile system. So immediately divide up the items into certain piles or boxes so you don't have to go through them again. And you could simply do yes, no, and maybe, which would be 3 piles. Or if you really want to go all out, you can also decide what you're going to do with the items in the no pile. So the items you want to let go of. So then it could be yes, keep, and then sell, give away, donate, recycle, and maybe. When it comes to discarding them ethically and mindfully, your best option is usually to either sell the items or give them for free away to someone you know personally, because that way you are really sure that the item will get a second life. Whereas if you donate it to like a thrift store or a charity shop, a lot of them will still end up getting discarded. Or you could also think about things like clothes swapping parties or the Buy Nothing project. And if you happen to come across items that you are not really wearing because you're kind of saving them for kind of a special occasion, then please see if you can actually start wearing them. You never know if they're even going to be fitting you a year from now, or if they're going to go out of style or things like that. So please wear them now, enjoy them as much as you can. And when it comes to the maybe pile, consider doing the following. Something we could do is just gather them in one box and seal them away somewhere in our home and revisit like 6 months or a year later. And chances are that we didn't really miss these items, but it's still challenging to get rid of them because the same things that were holding you back and confusing you last time would still be going on. So instead, try this. Make a maybe pile, put them in a box, but instead force yourself to wear one of the items every day until you have worn all of them. And not just wear them for an hour, but try to actually wear them for the entire day. Because then you will quickly see why you were unsure about something. Because maybe you'll see, okay, yeah, this was really uncomfortable, or the fit isn't really right, or the color isn't for me. Or maybe you see, oh yeah, I really love this one, I forgot I had it, and you want to start wearing it again. So actually wear all of these items for a day, and then base your decision on how they make you feel. Now let's talk about weight gain and weight loss, because many of you wanted to know what to do with the clothing items that we still really love, but we don't fit anymore. And personally for me, I am a big fan of only keeping the clothing items around that fit our current body well, for a couple of reasons, which I'm about to explain, but I can also see 2 scenarios where it actually would make more sense to keep them around, at least for now. For me, I used to struggle with this. I had a lot of clothing items around that I still really loved, but they had become too small for me, and I kept holding on to them in the hopes that maybe I could lose a little bit of weight and then I could wear them again. But in the end, all these items did for me was make me really insecure about my body and feel guilty about not wearing them. So getting rid of these things was not only incredibly freeing, but it also helped with becoming more confident about my body. However, if you are working on currently changing your body weight right now and you have like a clear action plan and steps you're taking towards achieving that goal, then it could be a nice motivation to hang on to them. So if you're actually working on changing your body weight, then it could be a good idea to hang on to them for now. Also, if for one reason or another your body weight tends to fluctuate a lot, then it could also make sense to keep them around, because then you won't have to go shopping every time your weight changes. But ask yourself, are these items that are currently not fitting you holding you back in any way? Are they provoking negative feelings? If that is the case, then it could be a better idea to actually just let go of them, say goodbye to them. Maybe a little bit painful, but in the end, it could really help to only have items around that fit your current body. And now let's talk about how to store all these items. So first is to decide if you want to keep all your items in your closet all year round, or if you want to do it seasonally and then store away the ones that are not in season. So here in the Netherlands, the weather really changes daily. And since I don't own that many clothing items anyway, and they all fit well in kind of my side of the closet, I choose to have them out all year round so I can mix and match. And because of that, I don't have any clothing items stored away somewhere else in my home. However, that does mean that I have certain summer dresses that for the other half of the year I don't really wear. So if that bothers you, or if you just want to have like a really small wardrobe visible, then you could think about storing away the items that are not in season, for example in airtight containers. I also recommend creating a special occasions box. So if you have certain clothing items that you only wear on special occasions or on holiday, for example, and you don't want to get rid of them, then just gather all of them in one special occasions box, because that way you won't have to get rid of them and they also won't clutter up your closet the rest of the time. If you're interested in going a step further and actually creating a capsule wardrobe, then I have an entire video where I talk you through the process step by step, and I also explain how to figure out your personal sense of style and how to shop for new items. So I will link it right here and in the description to check it out. And the last important thing that I want to say is to remember your goal during the entire process, because let's be honest, decluttering your closet can be time consuming and frankly overwhelming at times. So it really helps if you have it clear for yourself why you're doing it and what you want to accomplish by having a more minimal wardrobe. You could even sit down and write a plan beforehand and write down some goals and guidelines for yourself, and just take a few minutes to think about the kind of closet that you want to end up with, and take into consideration some things I just mentioned about your different lifestyle needs and the weather circumstances. And this can also help to prevent getting rid of something and then regretting it because you actually did need it and then you have to buy it again. So taking a few minutes can really be worth that time. Thanks so much for watching. Please give this video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because that really helps me out. It's a clear sign to YouTube that people are enjoying this video, and then they will recommend the video to more people. So thank you for that. If you want to go a step further and you want to create a capsule wardrobe, then click the video right there. As always, questions, comments, and conversation down below, and I'll see you next week. Bye bye.